is Victory Monday for the Michigan Wolverines, and they head into the bye week. So that means we got a little time to kind of reflect on what's happened before everything moves forward. So it's welcome to the morning drip, by the way. It was a good game, 32-29. Nebraska was indeed as tough as everyone thought. Granted, like my score prediction was way off, but certainly I anticipated that Michigan would be trailing at some point in this game. I didn't think it was going to be in the fourth quarter. I thought it was going to be in like the second-ish quarter. But things kind of went backwards from what I expected, right? What I expected the first half to be is what the second half was, and the second half was what I expected the first half to be, essentially, and I thought more touchdowns than field goals. But nonetheless, Michigan found a way. And certainly I know there's probably a lot of you out there that are thinking, okay, well, it's Nebraska, it's 3-4. You have to keep in mind, Nebraska is a very good team. It's lost all 4 games by just 1 score, and they've played every single team they've played tough, whether it's Michigan, Michigan State, Oklahoma. The only game that they lost that they really had no business losing was against Illinois. So, and that was, again, just kind of like this game, kind of like every game they played. It's been by their own doing. If Nebraska cleaned up its mistakes, it would probably be at worst 6-1, but 3-4 instead. But you have to give credit to Michigan, because Michigan, the way that it was able to go out there, the offense carried the defense in this one. Right? So the offense, was it spectacular? Absolutely not. Are there things you want to clean up? Absolutely. You'd like to see Cade's numbers go up a bit for 57% through his first interception. As many of you astute viewers pointed out, there was, which I didn't see because I was in the far end zone, there was a man offside, so it should have been, first off, it was false start, then man offside. So nonetheless, the play should have been blown dead. And it shouldn't have been an interception. Certainly, Cade probably saw the man offside, snapped the ball, and decided that he was going to throw it wherever he could throw it, which is what we saw later in the game. But still, you have to commend him. Not all of his throws were accurate. Still, some overthrows, some late throws, things of that nature. But he's making, for the most part, the right reads. He's certainly there were a lot of drops in this game. And they're playing even more shorthanded without Roman Wilson, but they still managed to get things done. Also, credit the defense. It stood tall in the first half, and then in the second, when it was not just bending but full on breaking, they still managed to get the crucial stops at crucial moments, especially at the end. Obviously, the Brad Hawkins forced fumble, and then recovery. That was great, but that last stand, especially after Nebraska made it to midfield, and they only needed 3 to tie it. Now, granted, they don't exactly have a great field goal kicker, but it really kind of felt like that at that point, like, well, they're just gashing Michigan's defense, and they're going to be able to move on, and they didn't. And this was a crowd that stayed in it the entire game. It was very impressive. That was my first time to Memorial Stadium in Lincoln. I've now been to all 14 Big Ten stadiums, and this was one of the more impressive crowds I've been around. It was raucous, not Penn State level. That's still the upper echelon as far as what I've experienced, but it was a very raucous crowd, and Michigan stayed calm and were able to do a lot of things. And when you look at the false starts, was that the crowd, or was that Nebraska emulating the snap count and clapping and all the things that Jim Harbaugh said afterwards? Obviously, I have the article out there that you can read about that on Wolverines*Wire. But it's looking pretty good for the sake that Michigan's finding ways to win, which is not normally what you can say about the Wolverines, right? They find ways to lose in the last decade, and that type of game. Close game on the road, Nebraska with the ball to tie or win it at midfield. Usually you don't expect, unless you're playing Indiana, you don't expect Michigan to win that game. And yet Michigan found a way, and now at 6-0, all eyes are going to be on that Michigan State game on October 30th. Now, here's where I think Michigan is, and they are third in my power rankings still. They are now behind Ohio State, who I put all the way back up at the top because they're looking like Ohio State again, and even with one loss, it's a pretty daunting challenge. They're behind Iowa. They're essentially tied with Michigan State in my mind. Michigan State's got a more explosive offense, but not as good of a defense. So I'm curious to see how that game goes on the road. Michigan should be up for the challenge, and certainly they'll want revenge. But it's an easier thing said than done to be able to slow what Michigan State does. Now, we'll get into that in a couple weeks, of course, because we still have a Northwestern game coming up in 2 weeks. But still, you have to feel good that Michigan's 6-0. I would bet that none of you had Michigan 6-0. I certainly didn't have Michigan 6-0. I thought Michigan was going to be, I think I had Michigan 5-1, which isn't a huge difference, but I definitely didn't think they were going to go in and manhandle Wisconsin on the road. Is Wisconsin worse than what we thought? Maybe. It also had the toughest schedule to this point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for Michigan. 3 really difficult games still left in their every other week. You've got Michigan State on October 30th, Penn State in 2 weeks into November, and then at the end, obviously, of November, Ohio State. But with Nebraska, not Nebraska, but Maryland looking certainly not what it started to be at the beginning of the season. And I know that's a road game and you never know, but right now it looks like Michigan should be able to handle Maryland without any issue. Indiana has been worse even than it's been in a lot of the Tom Allen era. And then Northwestern's the worst team in the conference. You get easy, then hard, easy, then hard, easy, then hard, as far as those of us who aren't playing the game can see it. So it's a matter of taking a breath and coming up with a good game plan. And you know what? Michigan had a really good game plan against Nebraska. They limited Adrian Martinez on the ground, which is everything that you want. He may force you to beat them with his arm, and he did. But it's everything that you want. So kudos again to the defense. They went up against a top-rated offense and managed to slow it. And we'll see what happens in down the line when we see some other teams that have explosive offenses. Of course, Ohio State looks, I don't know how you slow that offense. It has to slow itself pretty much. So anyway. All right, that's going to do it for today. We will be back on Wednesday. We'll keep the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule here of the Morning Drip until Michigan State week, and then we'll have plenty to talk about, of course, and then we'll go back to every day. But anyway, thank you for watching. We'll be back Wednesday.